This episode is sponsored by Exactuals, perfecting insurance payments and the data driving them.
I am life annuity and health market lead. Basically, I'm, as you said earlier, the owner of life annuity and health for EIS and ensuring that the market, the R&D team, the sales and marketing all have the right understanding and message and how that technology supports the LNA and H industry.
Now, because I love to make everything random in this podcast and I don't really take things linear, so now I should do the introduction and say, Samantha Chow, thank you very much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, and thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Now, for people who go like, just a second, I know her. I saw her face in one of 1,000 different conferences. Can, can or she interviewed me at a certain point. Can you tell people a little bit about your background? And I hope I pronounce it correctly. The IT, your time with IT as an analyst.
Yes, and you said it just right. You got it. IT Group. So yeah, I've had got about 20 years, a little over 20 years actually, doing myself in the life and annuities industry. I spent several years at Aflac, several years at New York Life Direct, heading up their research and strategy division. And even more recently, prior to joining EIS, I spent 5 years as an analyst at IT Group, covering everything from insurtech and policy administration, underwriting, claims, distribution, data, analytics, AI, ML, you name it, RPA. I've talked to just about every insurtech out there on a global scale, and really took a lot of that information that I learned through these companies to really help bridge the gap between the business and what I knew about the business from my time with the carriers, and tying that directly back to the technology and how this technology can help support the industry.
When did you join them?
I joined EIS last year. It's been 10 months. It's been 10 wonderful and very busy months. But yes, I've been here for about 10 months now. It's great to kind of take all that information that I've had over the years, right, from the carrier, then as an analyst, and bring it here and kind of flip everything on its head to support the technology side, which is really going to help innovate the life and annuities industry.
Now, usually I start this conversation, we do the introduction, then we build a little bit about the industry, all the stuff, then we reach a point, it's like, give me the big announcement. If you don't mind, let's do it the reverse. You had a big announcement, end of January, you launch a new product that the life annuity, you can describe it way better than I can do. And let's continue from there. So tell us a little bit about the product that you recently launched.
Yeah, absolutely. Very exciting. One of the reasons I came on board was to launch the life and annuity extension of the EIS Suite platform. EIS Suite is a policy administration end-to-end platform that serves the insurance industry, and not just LNA. We have been in a business for quite some time, started off with PNC, then moved into group benefits a few years ago, saw a huge gap in the coverage of the benefits market and their ability to really kind of digitalize and streamline the process of enrollment and onboarding and management of the group benefits business. So they came in very strong in that aspect. And kind of blew me away, even as an analyst, the type of technology that they had, which is why it made it very easy for me to come over and say, yes, this is exactly what my life and annuities people need, and I'm willing to support it. So in January, we went live and announced our position in that LNA space to really get out there and give them the same benefits that we've given the PNC industry as well as the group benefits industry.
Now, it's interesting that you coined it as CoreTech. So,
Yes.
what is CoreTech?
CoreTech. Think of CoreTech as InsurTech for policy administration systems, right? It's where InsurTech and policy administrations come together, sharing kind of that same similar DNA. So CoreTech really is a combination of cloud native technologies. So it's not built to adjust the legacy technology to fit into the cloud. It is built for the cloud. So there's no adjustments needed to be cloud enabled. So that's one key component. Another is that implementation methodologies and those upgrades, and how you get to a point where you no longer have these big bang upgrades that cost lots and lots of money and take tons and tons of resources to maintain on a monthly basis, or excuse me, annually basis. We take that away with this CoreTech technology by implementing every three week upgrades. That way, you ensure that there's no such thing as a version. Our version is EIS Suite, but every 3 weeks, the carriers that are on this suite are continuously upgrading, so they're always on the most current version. So that's another component of it. And really it's about being architected for the future. So think about it in terms of, API. There's that same DNA we were talking about, right? The APIs, microservices, containers, the ability to use event-based workflow to support kind of those emerging business models, customer experience, and new customer expectations. Getting the industry out there to be able to support the needs of all types of customers, all types of markets, all on a single platform.
If you don't mind, I want to ask you a little bit about, basically competitors, because when you think about core tech, we think about core systems, and then, okay, Guidewire, that for many are a little bit of a legacy already. We have the Duck Creek IPO, we have the Majesco. Dennis was one of the first participants in this podcast. Where do you position yourself with them? Because we see that core systems, it was a very hot topic 2 years ago, and it's been I would say, well, a core challenge for the industry for more than a
Yeah.
decade.
Yeah. I mean, going back to it, it's been a challenge for more than a decade. A lot of carriers have tried to build their own stuff, right? Because there are very few opportunities, let's say very few opportunities for them to really find the right core system, the right policy administration system for them. But so let me take an analyst approach to this so that I can I'll talk very unbiased, okay? I think for me, 5-6 years ago now, when I first became an analyst, sitting down and talking to the Majescos, the Vitex, the Duck Creeks, and the whole kit and caboodle, right? The 26. If we're just talking about in North America, you're talking about 26 different end-to-end core technology, or not core tech, but core policy administration technologies. What's difficult to understand is what does it look like really under the hood? Okay, most of these companies have multiple different, they talked about themselves being modular or componentized, right? But what makes them give them the ability to be in the cloud? What makes them or gives them the ability to be digital, right? In a lot of cases, a lot of our competition or the vendors out there have a layer that's created an opportunity for them to be in the cloud, right? It enables them to be in the cloud. It enables them to be digital. But what lies below that are the original legacy components or modules that were created many, many moons ago. So what you're seeing is a modernization at the top, but legacy underneath of it, which is what we refer to as modern legacy. Now, in a new core tech environment, you don't have that. You don't have the legacy built underneath. It's the roof, the house, the frame, everything is built for a more modern It is built for a more ecosystem, open API, microservices foundation, where you use these microservices or containers in any different combination that you see works for you. And then those microservices and then work with the other microservices or ecosystems, insurtechs that you want to create that uniqueness for yourself, right? You know, the policy administration systems, they do the same thing, right? It's what they enable you to do in addition to just servicing the customer or taking in an application or underwriting. It's what it lets you do in excess of that that makes them really unique and enables the carrier in turn to become very unique in what they do.
So you raised very good points here that I'm trying to figure out which direction I want to, to do the follow-up, because we can talk about the benefits for the insurance company itself, the carrier, how does it, improve their operation, or we can talk about building that, you mentioned API. So what does it mean for them in terms of building APIs? And maybe we should talk about it because it's something that comes again and again. And the difference between building an API and your own ecosystem versus tapping into a different ecosystem and building, the bigger level of the underwriting, the claims, the enrichment of data, etc., etc. And then, of course, there is that thing that I'm a little bit tired of it, but it's still a big thing, and we're going to see that for many good years to the future, and that's the digital transformation. Now, when I was at Farmers, now I left them 3 years ago, great company. They had at least three different core system providers on different business units, not including all the legacy, the COBOL, IBM that still ran. And the
Right.
best
And
analogy
that's a
that,
small number. That's a small number for as big a company as Farmers is. So kudos, I
oh
say.
yes, oh they had many different, and I I cannot, I cannot really dive into details, especially the cost of migrating to Guidewire or the cost to adapting to the different things, and 5-10 years plan to the future. And I usually love to bring the analogy that, yeah, basically we have two high speeding trains that are going together, and somehow you need to jump from one train to another while both of them are like at 300 kilometers an hour. Let's continue
Yeah.
with the digital transformation.
Yeah.
What's your approach for that?
Yeah. So let's start with what the industry has done thus far and how they need to kind of reimagine the way they're doing things. Uh, Thus far, the industry has taken what I'd like to call an outside in approach. Right? We saw a need. We needed to fix that customer experience. We focused on that customer experience. We transitioned from what we might call an agent centric environment where we're constantly meeting the needs of the agent because let's face it, they're the ones that sell the business. They are the ones that sell for us. Yes, direct to consumer is great, but not all products are sold in direct to consumer. Life insurance, annuities are complex. You need agents. So we focused on giving them what they wanted, the products that they wanted, et cetera, and then transitioned into this customer experience centric or customer centric. And that's when true digital transformation started happening. But again, on the outside, right? We were looking at the new web applications and new customer portals and underwriting processes, new business, ways to improve and increase the speed of issuance of a policy. We started with those particular pieces. And granted, we needed to, and they still need a lot of work. But those changes that they did 5 years ago on underwriting and new business are almost obsolete now. And they can't go into new pieces of technology to support those because of the legacy constraints that they have. So what they did was tried to modernize, but created modern legacy, right? So that's an outside in approach. What we need to do is rethink about how we're doing things. You need to have a core, right? Think about it as your digital heart, right? Without the digital heart, that enables you to create the digital arm or the digital leg, and grow and develop, you can't succeed. So replacing the core, right, with a CoreTech type solution enables you to grow very flexibly, and in a very personalized fashion, without having to worry about outgrowing that core system. The ecosystem can change. It's worth something today. Underwriting, the way it works, we can do that today. But if it changes in 5 years ago because we have a new set of data that we can use to underwrite, or we have a new insurtech that's come in that we want to utilize, we can do that very seamlessly because of it being microservices based and API driven. It's just about creating those connectivity, right? So that's where digital transformation is today.
Now, when you're talking about bringing in a new insurtech, are we talking about an insurtech as an enabler, a service provider, or someone who sells, an intermediary or a carrier?
All of the above. Right? All the above. Those intermediaries, that you need to be able to connect to them, right? If there's connection involved in some way, shape, or form, you're not going to do that easily with the court, with the policy administration systems that are in place today. Those legacy systems that these carriers are just kind of plagued with, you can't connect with them. You've got to start somewhere. You've got to start fresh. So by limiting you're limiting, they carriers are limiting themselves, right? By keeping that legacy solution, that core, because they can't integrate with the intermediaries or the, like I said, those new insurtech ecosystem partners, any of that. Something new is going to come along, and they're not going to be able to utilize that solution, or they're going to have to utilize more of it than they really want to or need to if they don't have the right core to be able to create that flexibility.
So basically, that's a path to build their ecosystem. If it's an ecosystem
Exactly.
of partners, of vendors, and when I talk about partners, usually I refer to different distribution channels. The different, if we are talking about insurtech startups, the MGAs or different companies that will be part of your program or use your paper, etc., etc. And for them,
Yeah.
if you don't have an API or something that, because let's rephrase it this way, you don't need people in that equation. For
Right.
especially for the young insurtechs that want everything, there are more direct sales, everything online. They need no human, nothing that will stop in the middle. It needs to be uh, API connected, or if you have some sort of a microservice behind that API, even better. Yeah.
Exactly. You need a frictionless experience.
Oh, thank you
Right?
very much. I was looking for
Right.
that word.
I know you were. You need a frictionless experience, and you can't have that with legacy. You
And
know,
by the way, the
um,
experience is not for the customer. It also for the policyholder, but it's for your partner because you
it's
don't
for the
want to be.
partner, the agent, the underwriter, the claims, the CSR. It's for the prospect who's not even been thought of yet. It's for everybody, and in that entire, and I use the word ecosystem again, which is, it's everything. It's everyone. And again, going back to that core, you cannot have. You need, if you want to be able to broaden. Say today you only sell life and annuities, but you realize, because our customers or millennials are driving us in this direction, that they want a single insurer for everything, right? So we talk about bundles, and I know we've seen a lot of that, going out. But really being able to create bundles, if you're only an LNA person, right, or carrier, and you want to add a new line of business or partner with someone in order to create a bundle. Let's talk about pet insurance, right? Or your auto. If you're not MetLife, who sells it all, you need to be able to create the right ecosystem. You have to have the right core technology. you cannot do what MetLife does because you were not established as, the insurance mecca with every possible product under the sun, right? And you want one system to do all that. You don't want the hundreds that MetLife has, right? You want one system to try and do that can grow and be flexible with you. But when MetLife started, this was not something that they could do, right? I mean, they were talking about, 100 something years ago now, they've built. If you have the opportunity, you need to start with something brand new, enables you to grow and develop.
How do you build and how do you manage an ecosystem? Is there a risk involved in it?
I think there's always risk involved with everything, right? I mean, this is the insurance industry, so every little thing is a risk.
And then there is a return on the risk.
And then and then there is the investment and what it brings to the table, right? So if carriers think about this in terms of how do I create uniqueness, right? If everybody offers life insurance, they all offer term life, they all offer, whole life, universal, whatever. But how can I be unique, right? How do I grow and develop these relationships? And, you talked about data. And again, to build the relationships, you kind of have to have that right core technology, right? That can bring all of these things together, all these different types of products, bundle them together, and you can to market and distribute. But again, it's about the APIs, right? So the EIS system, again, we talk about EIS suite, and it's broken down into core components. And I'm not going to, tout the, EIS, except for a moment. But we have what we call customer core, right? Everything is broken down into cores. Everything is reusable. Everything is, we start off with a base. So all the analytics, analytics and all of these different either components can be used across all line of businesses because we are line of business agnostic. We're country agnostic. We're cloud agnostic. We are, we pet insurance, you name it, we've got it, we've done it. And so it's about having that type of agnostic platform that can change, right? Because all the core components are the same, right? You have to have some kind of billing, you have to have some kind of policy, you have to kind of, but then you take those microservices and you create a specific microservices for pets or whatever it is, and you create a specific microservice for the connecting to the auto company, right? So then you have this connection, but all that data feeds into the same customer core. So you have a true 360 view of the customer. So the risk is that you really don't have the right people in place to know what to do with the data. That is your biggest risk, right? We talk about building frenemies, right? These are they're not your enemies anymore. They're your friends. Let's build these frenemy partnerships. And that's where you're going to get these bundles from. And that's where everybody's going to succeed. But again, goes back to that technology. The technology of yesterday can't do that. It's too much for the systems to handle. You won't have that sharing of data.
I will add to that a little bit also within the organization. Most of data goes to one group. Auto is a different business unit. All these different members of the ecosystem usually will go to different business units, different owners, right? We keep
Yep.
going back to the ownership. Somewhere, somehow, we will need to have a new entity of an head of ecosystem or someone that have that holistic view and can actually coordinate everything together because you're going to be connected. It's not just, oh, that's IT, that's data, that's here, that's there. It will need to have that one bigger, umbrella of
Right.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Let me. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, I was just
You were
saying,
saying?
you're right. You gotta have the umbrella. That umbrella is what that's what we call our customer core, right? Which brings in, I mean, we've got experiences with other companies that their
Mhm.
banking data, because they're also a bank, and their insurance, their different lines of business, their auto, their life, from different subsidiaries, and being able to pull this information, this data of all of those into the customer core, that enables them to really proactively and prescriptively market to their clients, as well as use that same data to market to people that are not clients.
Let's talk about the analog part of our life. So, our life, your focus is life and annuity. As we all know, the say, life insurance is being sold, not bought. So, we need to talk about the agents. With all the CoreTech and, digital transformation, APIs, you go to, a retail agent. What API? What the hell is that? They have no
They
idea.
don't care.
They don't
They don't
care.
care. Right. Yeah.
So, what kind of love can we give the retail agents?
Yes. I love it. Love. So let's think about this. Remember, I said earlier, we were customer centric before. We gave them all these tools, and they could go online now and fill out and submit everything online, clicking a few buttons here and there to answer their health questions. Yet back then, for me, if I had to go or I wanted to buy something through an agent, I had to sit down and we had to fill out the form all by hand, asked me 1,000 health questions, had to explain it. He had to write it all down by hand. And then it went off to somebody who sat there and entered it in the system. And 3 or 4 times they'd have to come back and say, this isn't right. It's not checking out in the system for the address or what have you. Right? They got to come back to me. Is this what you meant? Did I capture this? Oh, I didn't capture that. My mistake. Right? So the poor agent, their system, their process never changed. Even today, right? Most of them still have to do everything manually. And then they have to go back and log into a VPN or some kind of system and then input the information. And then you have these horrible NIGO, or not in good order, rates, right? That cause tremendous upset and increased costs for the carrier. Now, what carriers are starting to do, or should be doing, is giving those same benefits that they've given the customer to the agent. So it's about creating persona-based applications, right? You have to have an application for the agent, and that's all they care about, right? What does my app look like that I'm going to use? And what can I do with this? Does it have all my tasks? Does it connect to my CRM, or does it have an embedded CRM? Can I communicate with the underwriter as I'm putting information? Can it automatically go in the background and check as I'm keying in this information with this person right in front of me? So it's telling me automatically, yes, that's an acceptable address. Yes, that is all the health questions we need from this person. Or yes, guess what? This person's automatically approved, because behind the scenes, I've run MIB, I've done a RX check, I've gone out to LexisNexis, I've done TransUnion for financial and credit and all of this, and even I've pinged RGAX for their health score, or Magnum or somebody, and guess what? It all comes back positive. I see no issues. You go ahead and issue that. Just click the button. We're done. Here's how much it's going to cost. We need that same experience that the customer gets with the agent. It gives them speed, it gives them accuracy, it gives them a reason to want to utilize the technology. And they don't care about the APIs, they don't care about what's happening in the background. All they care about is they know right then that this person needs additional underwriting, and they can order the APS right there if they need to, or blood, whatever it is they need to do, or they can communicate immediately with an underwriter through that and not lose any of that communication. And it's continuous, right? It happens immediately. And so going back to I made a statement about persona-based applications. Well, it's not just the agent who needs their own personal application, but the underwriter, so that the underwriter can communicate with the agent, or the underwriter can communicate with claims when the time comes, right? Or claims can communicate with the agent, right? But they all have their own individual look and functionality. Or I shouldn't say look. They all have their own individual functionality based on their needs, but the same look and feel across everything. So that's how we give the agent the love, right? We give them the tools that they need to be successful, to help be predictive, utilizing the data, right? To help give them that next best product or next best offer for this individual, to build the relationships while being able to be tied to the carrier the entire time.
We are reaching the end of our episode. So before I jump to the regular question that I'm asking everyone, I'll just jump directly to that. So usually I ask everyone, can you provide a recommendation of a book, a movie, a life hack, or just anything that you explored during lockdown?
Oh my. I did watch I watched Grey's Anatomy from beginning to end, but I don't
Well, sure, that works. That works. That
I
works.
watched
Grey
all
Anatomy.
sorts of stuff. But yeah, that was the one I think I just sat down and watched from beginning to end with my kids.
Grey
So
Anatomy. Isn't that like 17 seasons?
yes, yes it is. And it's still going.
Wow.
So
It's still
I'm
going.
kept up. It's still going. Pandemic and all. But yes, I don't know that
Good
I would
job.
necessarily recommend that, but if you're looking for something brainless and a good drama, and I always love like the ER type drama, there you go.
Listen, I think that thanks to my wife, we've been coming through any murder series out there. We,
Yeah,
at this point, we are somewhere in Melbourne already. So we ran out of death and murder in the US and in England. So now we are in Melbourne. Yeah,
that's funny.
it's, I think that if it's a good show, first season, great. Usually somewhere in the second season, you go, it's like, okay, he's sort of a familiar face. He's the murderer. Let me know how
Yeah,
it ended.
yeah. Then I'm done. Yeah, no, I think like everybody else, I probably watched all of the other stuff too, Breaking Bad, and all the death and destruction, and then I went to Grey's Anatomy, and I think that just kind of kept me happy.
Fantastic. You know, we need to be happy,
That's
right?
right.
Samantha,
That's right.
thank you very, very, very much for joining me today and sharing all your knowledge with the audience.
I'm glad to be here, Gilad. Thank you very much for having me.